We'll be doing simple layering. To illustrate this, I use a breakfast sketch. We'll be looking at how to layer this as well as how to sketch metal. It's very important to analyze the sketch that you want to make. In this case, I'm only looking at the content of the breakfast, the waffle, the sausages, as well as the beans and the cutleries. The cutleries we'll talk separately, but for the breakfast items, what you need to look for are basically one, how many layers do you need to do? I'm thinking 3, because there is a highlight, there is a shadow, and then there is a middle ground where you need to put in the first layer. First layer usually is for the middle ground. Maybe you avoid the highlights, but then or you can even put in opaque highlight at the end. For the metal, special mention would be we need to have to observe the shapes and the contrast between the dark and light. For drawing, always remember, start with the big picture, the overall outline, and once you get the outline in place, you can then go in to draw the little details inside the outline. One of the key things to remember once you go inside is that they are guide for your watercoloring. They are not an end product in itself, but they are actually to guide where you will put colors. But you have to remember that the guide itself doesn't have to be very restrictive. In fact, I encourage you to paint over guides or the pencil line. It is a mistake to strictly paint inside the line. It's actually not very artistically pleasing. If you do that, it looks like a kindergarten's work, and it won't be very nice. There is some kind of a beauty of painting over the line, and also painting with a sense of freedom, that a guide is just a guide and not a rule or restrictive lines that constrain our artistic expression. Like I always say, we were damaged by whoever told us when we were 2 years old to color inside the line. So learn to break that habit. The first layer consists of basically transparent yellow and red. In this case, I'm using lemon yellow, new gamboshed, and queen rose. I try to apply a layer of uneven washed, where the colors are mixed, where there is a cool yellow, lemon yellow, and then there's a warm yellow, new gambosh with a tinge of queen rose in it, and the red sort of goes towards the bottom. In some way, it is a very variated wash, if you like. Now I'm going in with queen rose with a bit of queen burnt orange to paint the sausages, leaving lots of highlights, the whites there is. For the waffles, I am just putting in where I see the yellows are. Painting metal requires you to think about 3 things. One is the shape. Usually in this case, they are very thin lines or thin shape. Second is value, the contrast between dark and light. Sometimes very extreme light or highlight sits right next to the darkest dark. And the third is the ability to mix beautiful grays. Try not to use black if you can, but grays mixed gives you a certain characteristic. There's character in mixed gray. I'm going in a little bit on some of the shadows, and I'm trying to soften the edges of the shadow as well, because the shadows are soft and slightly diffused. If you look at the photograph, some parts of the shadows are darker, so I created the same color mix but with a bit more intensity to it, and you can see the darker shadows coming out, and as well as I applied on the waffles, and I applied on underneath the waffles as well. Immediately you see for the sausages, between the highlight and the darkest shadows, the sketch itself would seem to pop. Right now I'm going in with a second layer of wash, and they are essentially around the beans, and I'm just putting in the wash where I see in the photograph, the darker colors, where they are, and then I'm just putting it down as I see it. At this point, I'm thinking to myself, I probably just need 3 layers or maybe 4. And because the first wash has variety of yellow and orange and to the red as well, now it allows the sketch to look a little bit different, with a lot of texture and a lot of character in it. I'm going in with a little bit of a darker value for the metal. Again, it is a gray that I mixed, which has, mixed gray always have character. So as you can see, I'm just layering, and I'm thinking, alright, maybe I need a bit of highlight at this point, so I'm going in with my Copic opaque white, and I tone down a little bit of the white so that it's not so ghastly. In other words, I use a bit of the gray and I gray out a little bit of the white. It's still white and it's still opaque, but it is not so thoroughly white that it stands out like saw thumb, if you like. So I'm using that and I'm putting in where I see the highlights are, and I'm going in liberally. I'm following what my eye sees and I'm just copying it down, in a fun way. And I'm also putting some of that onto the cutlery itself. For some part, I'm actually going in with a stronger white, and I try to just put down the lines as I see it. It's very easy to overdo white, and it becomes ghastly, white, and it's just out of place. So you need to be able to sort of read the sketch and make sure you're not overdoing it. Some parts of the whites are paper white, some parts of the white are opaque, Copic white, if you like. Of course, as I always say, you can use titanium white watercolor, or you can use gouache white. I don't intend to have a lot of finesse in this sketch. After all, it is a sketch, not a painting. It took me roughly around 25 minutes or so to paint this breakfast. I'm laying down to make it more three-dimensional, a bit more of the shadow. And I think I'm done actually. So, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope it's given you some idea around how to simplify your food or breakfast sketch. And all this at the end of the day is to enjoy a simple sketch, creating an impression of what you have eaten. And I hope that gives you some idea on how you can do the same. So, peace out.